Hey everyone, this is Lindsay from She Works Abroad, and I am here today with Allie, who is
Hello.
calling in late night from Germany. Hey Allie,
What's up? How are you, Lindsay?
I'm doing super well. I'm so excited for you. So this is week number 3 for you in
Yeah,
Munich, if that's correct.
that's correct. Yep. So
Oh,
technically, I've been here about 2.5 weeks.
awesome. And so
Yep.
far so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, everything's come together pretty nicely.
Yeah, I'm excited to speak with you today because you had one of the more interesting stories
Yes.
from your global career in terms of our first conversation, what happened, how
Yep.
quickly you found a job, and how you went over interviewed and like were given it on the
It
spot.
was like a
So
whirlwind. I
it was
know.
a whirlwind,
So crazy. I
but an
know.
exciting one and one that ended with you moving to your target
It
location,
did.
your target city, and making it happen. So why don't we start from the beginning? Probably the best place to start. And remember, we're on our very first call. I know exactly where
Okay.
I was during our very
I was
first.
I was in my car. I remember.
You were in your car. All right, so let's talk a little bit about where you were
Makes me
before
like
the
cringe a
program.
little bit. Go ahead.
I know, I know. So where you were before the program. You'd been looking for jobs for a while. Why don't you talk us through that?
Sure. So I initially obviously got connected with Lindsay, you on LinkedIn through a
Hmm.
mutual friend. And I was sort of at a point where I was sort of stagnant. I felt like I didn't have any momentum going in my life. And I liked the company I worked for and I liked where I was living, which was in Florida at the time. But I knew it wasn't a forever home for me. And I just kept getting sort of visuals of myself being abroad, trying out a company abroad. And so I looked on your website, found information, and then we had our call together, which I was super hesitant at first.
Hmm.
But eventually I was like, I need to do this. So yeah, I was, for lack of better words, I was just lost, I think, personally and in my career. And I
Hmm.
thought that if I tried something big, like trying to find an international position, it could be what I was looking for.
Right. And I remember on our first call, you said that you'd spent about like 4 to 5 months applying and looking for
Yeah,
jobs and like hadn't made any traction, didn't feel like
right.
you had a strategy, we're just trying to figure out what worked. But the thing I like about this story, because I think it's so relatable to other people, Allie, is
Definitely.
I kind of I kind of asked you like how much do you want this?
Yes.
You know, like
Well,
go ahead.
that's okay. No, that was the thing. So that was probably the main phrase that stuck in my mind because at the time of our call, I didn't even know how much I wanted it. Like it was just an idea.
Mm.
But the more we started talking about it, the more I realized that it's something I wanted to invest in.
Absolutely. And you weren't, and I think this is also where some other people are too, which is like, you weren't miserable. Sometimes I talk to
No.
people and they're like,
Yeah,
they're super miserable. They do not want to be where they are. They do not want to be in the job that they're at. But like you had a good job and you were in Florida.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Everything was like pretty much okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was like the turning point where you're like, I've got to do something.
Right. So, back when I was applying for jobs abroad, I had gone through more of like a shift in my personal life. I'd gotten out of a relationship and I think I was just sort of looking to sort of reinvent myself. I think, especially being in your 20s, you're still figuring things out. And I was looking online and was like, you know what? Maybe if I want to get out of Florida, I should just first look just in the country. And I was like, I could go to California, I could go to Chicago. And part of me was like, I don't know if that's going to fulfill me. I don't think that's what I'm meant for. So that's when I started browsing positions basically anywhere in Europe that I could find. So, yeah.
And how many
Mhm.
positions do you remember how many you applied for?
Oh my gosh. I wrote it down today actually, probably between 50 and 100 altogether.
Okay.
It was a significant amount. Yeah.
And
And I only heard back from two.
wow. And interviews with those two? I don't remember.
Just one. Just one. One phone interview, and then the other one, they like expressed interest, but I didn't hear back from them after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like pretty much in terms of 100 applications to one phone interview.
Very low number.
Yes, that's when you know the strategy's not working.
Correct. Exactly. And I knew at the time that that was just not going to help me get where I had to go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point, which is one that I think you and I spoke through, and that I speak through all the time, which is the idea of if you move to another location, will you in 6 months still have that internal like yearning or desire to be abroad?
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
knew deep down that there would always be that lingering question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
could I do this? Because you were right.
Right.
You just come out of a relationship, in a, like at a point where you wanted a change,
Mhm.
and I remember. So our initial phone call, we parted ways. We
Yep,
said,
we
okay,
did.
yeah, we parted ways, and
Right.
we just said, okay, it's not the right timing. But then,
Right.
um, I asked that question, like, how bad do you want this? And then it was, I think, 6 days later, I got a text from you.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep, that
Yep.
sounds right.
And you
Yep.
said, I want to do this. So what changed?
I think I was hesitant at first because, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. I didn't know how big of a task it would be.
Yeah.
Like I'm committing to myself here to find a job abroad. It's going to be a big change. Visas are involved. Do I really want this? And it just sort of kept nagging at me. And in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe I'll put that on pause. But 5 or 6 days later, I remember waking up one morning and being like, this is still bugging me. I can't shake this. And that's when I was like, I'm just going to text her. I have to text her.
And see how it happens, see what goes
Yeah,
on. Yeah. And then honestly, from that point forward, we worked on a two-prong strategy for you.
we did. Yes.
And we worked hard at that two-prong strategy. And I was pretty confident that we were going to get you abroad with your current company,
Same. Yeah.
given all of our conversations about where you were in it and that you really enjoyed it and you had a really good champion who was very high up in the country, in the company. And then like all of a sudden out of left field, it was like once you committed and you said like, I'm in, I'm doing this, opportunities started coming your way.
That's exactly what happened. Yep. It was crazy. It's like it fell from the sky. I know.
I know. So talk us a little bit. Do you remember what week that was of you and I working together?
When the job offer came,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that was I got the email that they wanted to interview me like the first or second week of October. So I actually think I was pretty much my last week with you, one of the last two
Wow.
weeks. Yeah. So I can give you background about what I was initially looking for with my current company.
Yeah.
So the company that I was working with, they had an international office in Belgium and Antwerp, and also being in Europe, I thought that was a really great idea. And so you and I brainstormed, and we decided, to come up with an action plan for that. And that was sort of like the focus for the
Hmm.
first couple weeks. And then I just get this random email in October, and I emailed you and said, "Hey, so like this opportunity came up. What do you think?" And you were like, go fly out there."
Yes, make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was, I think you put it best where my energy was in the right place. I was all in and I was just committed. And I woke up one morning and saw this email and thought, this is definitely a sign that I'm meant to be living over there, somewhere over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
the fact that, I mean, we did a lot of what I say foundational work, right? So
Yeah.
foundational work
Yeah.
on how, like, what's your skill set? What's your background? What are your intercultural, international skills? So we really kind of,
Right.
and made sure that that was public and available so that the right people can find you and that the right
Exactly.
opportunities can come your way. And
Yep.
then I always love that when we have multiple options to play with because it just
Mhm.
increases your chances in the timeline. The time it can shift forward when we're working with, more than one strategy for getting abroad. But this email coming and literally they said, "Can you come to Germany like
Yeah.
next week to
Yeah. They wanted to fly me out the week after, which I learned that with German culture, they're very efficient with how they work and their scheduling. So it
Mhm.
actually, like, looking back, it makes sense that they were trying to get me over there quicker. But yeah, they were willing to pay for my flight, for my hotel. I was in Munich for maybe 4 days total, so they gave me a couple days to kind of walk around and explore. And yeah, it was out of left field. And to preface, they were actually the one company that I had a phone call with in May of last year.
Crazy.
Yeah, so they were like the only one that really kind of hooked it, and then they got back to me in October.
Crazy. Yeah, in October, right? So
Yeah.
that came back around and that happens. I find a lot of times people have seeds planted, but they haven't been nurturing them or growing them. And in this case, like this one came up and we did a ton of preparation for your interview.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it was great. It was perfect.
I know. Like we've been through, I'm pretty sure like every scenario of questions they could ask, who you were meeting with, what that person's background was, because it was an international
Yep.
company. So we started
Yep.
talking about how different cultures are going to interview
Yep.
differently.
Researching them on the website. Yep.
How was that when you flew there? Did you feel like you were prepared after all of our back and
I did.
forths? Yeah.
I did. It was funny because so I met with two of the more senior people at the company, and one of them who's my boss now, and they were actually almost more informal than I thought. I mean, I came with like a spreadsheet of like questions and answers that I was reviewing, and it was funny. I remember one piece of advice you gave me was, find out information about them, maybe like a personal tidbit from their profile, so you could ask them. And one of the directors was learning Spanish. That was like his line on the website. And I mentioned that to him, and he started laughing. And he said, "I see you've been reading the website." But
Right.
it was good. It was like a good lighthearted joke, and it kind of got the interview going. So
Absolutely. And it
yeah,
tells them that you're interested in them.
yeah, yeah.
You've
That I did
taken
my
the
background.
time to read the website and learn about them individually and as a business. And I think obviously you sealed the deal because you came home with
Mhm.
the offer in hand.
Yep, yep.
How was
They
the,
they
go
offered me
ahead,
the position the same day.
the same day? Yeah, like, okay, so you're here, we like you like us, let's make this happen. And then we went through the wonderful world of international negotiations.
Yes, and that was fun. But that worked in my favor too. So.
Yeah, how was your experience with that?
So the initial salary that they offered me was good, but the one of the biggest things about living in a company like Germany is their tax system is a little bit more severe in how much they take out of your paycheck, and due to their healthcare system. So I was kind of looking through numbers and was like, I can make it work, but it's going to be difficult.
Mhm.
And I thought about it. We spoke, and I said, what if I kind of give them a ballpark for what I'm sort of making in the United States and kind of match it to what they think? And they got back to me maybe a day later, and they said, we really want you, and we're pleased to offer you X amount more. And it ended up being like a perfect amount to live comfortably and do what I have to do. So
Awesome, awesome.
yeah,
And like, good for you. I mean, that negotiation is just something I see so many times. People are like, they
they
get
get
it,
nervous.
they get an
Yeah,
opportunity and they think, I can't negotiate. It's a foreign role and there's a visa
no, no,
attached to it. And you were
no.
just so professional in your way and how we like calculated the response. And you ended up in
Exactly.
a
And that's the
really
biggest
positive
thing.
situation.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So I would always advise people to not be afraid of doing that.
No, absolutely. And tell me about the role because we wanted to
Sure.
make sure it was a step forward in your career, something different, working
Sure.
with different people and teams.
Yep. So the role that I have now, I'm a technical writer. So it was the same position that I had at my former company, and this position for me was sort of a way to branch into project management. One thing that really hooked me about this company was that the department I'm reporting to is project management and deployment. And during my interview, I actually spoke at length with my future boss and told him, I really enjoy technical writing, but I do have a piqued interest in maybe doing project management. And he had a really positive response. And this was just during the interview. And he was like, yeah, if it's something you're interested in, we can sit down and talk about it, as you progress in the role. So for me, it was like, this is a good way for me to start a role with a job that I'm very comfortable with already. I
Mm-hmm.
know how to write, how to learn about products, but I can transition into something greater from here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And setting you up for that trajectory,
mhm.
that was something we spoke about when you were building our foundation of what does the next step look like, and then what do we want the step after, and finding a company and a manager who understands that it can
Yep.
help you along that pathway is amazing.
Yep. Yeah. He was super open to it, which I thought was great. So
Which is, yeah, you've landed in a really good spot with a good company.
definitely.
So looking back, so that was your the path to getting abroad from a visa standpoint was more formal because sometimes you have people who go more informally, they can start consulting or contracting. Your company wanted to make sure that everything was in line beforehand. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, what I initially had to do was find the German consulate, and the only German consulate in Florida is in Miami, where you are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so they wanted me for full-time employment. And because of that, there's a little bit more of a process you have to go through with a visa. So I applied for something that they called an EU Blue Card,
Mm-hmm.
which is a work permit that enables you to work for a specific company for a couple of years. So it was definitely more formal. I had to make sure that I had the visa at least 2 weeks prior to me starting.
Yep.
So it was more of a formality. And then basically, it's almost like when you get a driver's permit. So you have the permit and then you get a license. So my permit works the same. So in 6 months, I'll have to apply again for like the formal card.
Got it.
Uh, but they were, to answer your question, they were very willing to work with me. I spoke to HR like every day back and forth, keep me posted when you're going there. And when I finally got it, which by the way, I went on a Wednesday and it came in the mail on Monday.
Unbelievable.
So I was like amazed how fast the turnaround was. And
So
then I
good.
just scanned a copy to them and that was it.
Yep. So,
So,
I mean, they're like, when you have that employment letter and
mhm.
that company is sponsoring you, they usher you through the visa process. It was like,
Right.
we need you to do this, go to the consulate, but after that, this is on the HR team to get done.
Right, right. And they were constantly like, if you need any help, let us know. We've done this many times. We've done this so many times with Americans. So, yeah, they were super easy to work with.
So good. Awesome. Okay, sorry, I had to switch locations there. So now like hindsight is 2020, right? And it's been a few months
Mm-hmm.
since your global career. Looking back on how that set you up, your biggest learnings, what do you feel like you accomplished? Well, we know what you accomplished. You accomplished a role internationally, but also
Right,
personally, how did you grow?
sure. So personally, I think the biggest takeaway from your program for me was the international resume and reformatting the LinkedIn profile. So not only I think did the program help me put myself out there and find positions abroad, but it actually helped me realize, oh, I have an entire list of skills that I would never even think to put on a resume. So I think I grew more in being aware of my capabilities and my job skills
Mm.
and being able to format it to be attractive to employers. So if anything, I think I grew the most just realizing my potential. That's what I would say.
That's so awesome. And it's you when we first spoke, when we spoke about your background and your interests, and especially because you're in a technical field, it was very clear and evident to me that you could make this happen. But
Right.
like what happens with a lot of people is when they're applying for jobs and applying for jobs and not hearing anything back, they
It's,
start to feel like they don't have the skills and capabilities that they need
and that's
to
exactly
achieve.
how I felt.
Yep. And so just
Exactly.
combing like bringing those out and displaying them
Mhm.
in a new way gave you that foundation to stand on to be
Yeah,
able to then go in and into an interview process where there was, I mean, one interview and you closed the interview and got the job.
basically. Yep. That's pretty much how it works. Yeah.
So fabulous. So
Yeah.
fabulous. Anything
Yeah.
else in terms of you're obviously excited about this next phase of your
Mhm.
growth and development in Germany, but what is the most exciting thing for you about this new achievement of living abroad?
I think the biggest thing would be, oh man, there's so many to choose from. Culturally, I think I'm really excited to just meet people from different cultures, and from a business perspective too, international business. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to over the next couple months. And then just being able to travel. I mean, being in the heart of Europe, you can just access, trains and planes pretty much anywhere you want to go. But yeah, I think overall, just learning about the business, and seeing professionally where I can go in the company.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm like so excited for you and love the fact that you mentioned that you're meeting up with another Your Global
I
Career
am.
graduate this weekend in
Yeah.
Germany.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
So awesome. Just love
Right
that.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, just love the
Mhm.
community you're building there. And
Yeah.
I mean, parting words for people, anyone, because you were on the fence in the
I
beginning,
was. Yep.
and thinking back in terms of advice that you would give other people who maybe feel in the same position, like they think this is what they want, but they're not quite sure if they're ready to go all in.
Sure. I would say number one, it's totally normal to feel how you feel because everybody feels it, whether
Yep.
you want to work abroad or work somewhere else. But I think the biggest takeaway would be you have the capability to believe in yourself more than you think. And when a program like this and someone like you highlights that and kind of brings it to light, it's so much easier to give yourself the confidence that you can do it. So for anybody that's on the fence, I would say try it. Just see where it takes you, because in my position, my goal was to stay with my current company and just go to an international office with them, but I ended up with an opportunity that was almost better suited for me, and I had
Right.
no idea.
Right.
So you never know during that time what will happen.
Absolutely. No, you
Yeah.
won't. You won't. And like one of the things that I always say is instead of kind of trying to push down these feelings of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to go internationally, embrace them and let it change your
Yeah.
life. Because
Yep.
once you
And just make
embrace
sure you're
it,
looking for it. Mm-hmm.
once you
Yep.
embrace it, everything else changes, and you're a perfect case study for that.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I would say anyone on the fence, go for it. You will not regret it.
So good. Well, thank you again for being here today. We're so happy for you in Munich.
Of course. Thank you.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.